Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Thanks for clicking on the video. I hope if you enjoy it, you'll like and subscribe and do all that fun stuff. I hope you guys are all doing great and had a great weekend. I did. I went shopping at the Crystal store in Fargo, so that was fun. I had like a girls' day with my sister. I've been relaxing and trying to get back right mentally, and I think it's working. Today was a pretty day out. It was like almost 50 degrees, so hopefully it'll be that way tomorrow. There was some nice sunshine and all of that. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and talk about 90 Day Fiance The Other Way, Season 5, Episode 17, The Big Bang Theory. And then I'm also going to include Episode 18, The XXXY Files. And then guess what? I'm all caught up. And I'm patiently waiting for the new episode of 90 Day that's going to come on today. So, yay. Anyway, all that being said, let's get into it. I'm going to go ahead and start off with Kimberly and TJ. Apparently, they're still showing the wedding. I don't know how many episodes it's been that we've been watching this. But I think they're just happy to actually have a wedding on this show. I guess they really want to milk it. Anyway, it's 4:20 in the morning. Kim's walking around barefooted because she doesn't have slippers, apparently. She said they had 20 hours of wedding celebrations and they're exhausted. And, her parents are leaving from here. Like, they should have planned an extra day to sleep after this wedding, because now they have to travel back to America. But anyways, she doesn't want them to leave, and, she's going to miss them. And they're saying goodbye to Kim's parents, and TJ's on the same page as me, like they should have stayed longer. They're like, yep, we know better now. They tell TJ to take care of her. The stepmom's crying. She tells them, to take care of each other. And they say how they're so far away and it's more difficult because when they leave, it's final. Kim says things were easier with her parents there, and she's scared that she'll have a hard time adjusting to her daily life. But she has no idea. She doesn't know what she's in for. Stepmom tells her not to let anything get in the way of her being happy with TJ. And the dad tells her to approach things respectfully, and then no one can deny that she did anything bad. She says she's still working on that. So he's meaning like, just play by the rules and be respectful, and then if people treat you bad, it'll be clear that it was on them and not you. And stepmama knows what's up. She's like, yeah, you'll be working on that a long time, because you have a long road ahead of you there. But it could be a happy road. Then they have a group hug. She's crying in her interview. She says she's going to miss them a lot. They've always been there for her, and they've grown a beautiful relationship now, and it hurts her to be so far away. She says she's officially married and a part of TJ's family, and she wants to not dwell on things, but she feels like all they did was put a Band-Aid on it, especially with Yash. She doesn't feel like anything's healed there. And now she's nervous and scared to live with them, and I really don't blame her. She might have a terrible attitude, but she deserved to know what she was in for here. I don't think that's fair. Later we see them, and it's 7 a.m. Wedding's over. They're arriving home. They get to the door, and there's a plate with candles and all this commotion and yelling. And they've been waiting for them, and I guess they have another ritual or something. They love up the cow. Kim says that it's been over 24 hours since they started the wedding. She hasn't slept, and now there are more rituals. She looks cranky about it, too. And so would I. They're feeding her something. At this point, she's just used to getting fed. She's just like, and she's so tired. TJ says it's a spiritual thing. It's called the arty, and it's like waving the plate with the candles around them. And you're calling all the gods together to introduce a new girl coming into the house. And it's like, but I thought she was already there. Like, no one introduced her yet? Got to be right now. He says that in Hinduism, God is in the kitchen, and that's the purest place in the house, and Kim's never been allowed in their kitchen. He says no one other than family can enter, and they weren't married. So she's in there, and it means a lot, and they are family, and they've accepted her. They're all praying, and Kim just wants to sleep. She says she knows it's a big deal for them, and she wants to learn all this, but she's basically in zombie mode right now. And he says she's tired, so they're going to skip 2 more rituals. A sweet thing made by her, and a good old game of search for the ring. But they are going to do them later. She's just going to be allowed to rest finally. She's like, yeah, me cooking isn't a good idea right now. And neither is doing a ring ritual. The only good idea is sleep. So they get into the room, and before she can enter, he has her say something else to make it a married couple's room. And TJ must be excited because he's like wide awake right now. She collapses into bed. He's appreciating how she managed through this wedding, being an American. He tucks her in. He says he has to go do something at the temple to tell Ganesh they're married, and then he can sleep with her. They can't share a bed till he goes to the temple and gets God's permission, and then that's the last thing. He tells her now that they're married, they have 2 heads of the house, his mom and her. That means that she's taking care of daily responsibilities. Now he's telling her all this, but she can barely think or function, so that's not fair either. He says in India, the head of the house isn't just a breadwinner, it's the one who leads the family. And now that they're married, she's going to know her responsibilities of the house, but she has no clue. And he hasn't been open about these things, so she doesn't freak out, and then they'll argue. So it's going to be a nuclear explosion when she does find out that she was bamboozled, I'm sure. He tells her that in India they give that respect to the women only, being the head of the household, because they do so many things. She's so delirious, she doesn't know what he's saying. He tucks her in. She says it's the most exhausting experience she's had, but so far she likes being married to him. And her goal now is to give living there the best shot and to try to communicate clearly and calmly. We all know that doesn't work. We've seen the previews. And that she feels like they need a new beginning. I feel like she was the most pleasant when she's super tired. So there's that. Yeah, there wasn't much to say. I'm glad this wedding's over so we could get back to some drama. I appreciated seeing it. It was beautiful. They looked great. TJ's happy. I could see how she felt a little bit like she was just a prop there, It wasn't really about her, but, that's what she agreed to. So I'm excited to see her getting back to her terrible self. It's rather entertaining for me. And speaking of terrible, let's talk about Danielle and Johan. Danielle is telling us they saw a life coach a month ago, and she thought they were turning over a new leaf. After this session, all he did was translate for them and say something he read off a fortune cookie about relationships, and she thinks that helped. She does say that Johan got a job with his nephew working at a lending company, so he drives around and collects debts. Wonder if he's knocking on Danielle's door. She tells us things were great for a while, until yesterday. And I think at this point she's been there a few months. When were things ever great? I don't remember that happening. When her friends visited for 2 days. Anyways, she was sitting in her kitchen and she opened her bank account and she found a $40 charge. She knew it wasn't her. She went through her account and she saw a bunch of them. They were ATM withdrawals. And she asked Johan. He said it wasn't him. She's like, okay, I have to go to the bank and ask to see a video of who took the money out. So finally he said, yeah, he banged the table. He got mad and he wasn't responding and he was just being a jerk about it. He didn't even apologize. He never said why he did it. He just acted like he was entitled to this money. So she told him to get the F out. And he refused. So she went in her room and she's been hiding in there with all her stuff working. Now she doesn't know if she should go back to New York or does she try to stay and work it out and talk. It's no, run away. He stole money from you. He's lying. He feels entitled to everything you have. And, maybe he does get some of that money since he's working. I don't know if he works and he gives her his whole check or what. I don't know what their arrangement is here. Johan tells us Danielle went on a spiritual retreat and he took money off her card and didn't tell her. She made a scene and said he was a thief. He says he's her husband, so that isn't right. And, I'm like, it looks like he got a real nice tattoo on his arm. Like a new one. Unless he already had that. I can't remember. But he tells us that they have separate bank accounts. Meaning his check goes into his bank account then. I'm sure. And then his money from working isn't in her account. He says that she would leave her card on the table. So he took it because he knows the PIN. Like, okay, that is being a thief, my guy. He took 2,000 pesos. He says, in marriage, what's mine is yours, so he can steal from his wife. Oh, he can't steal from her. It's not stealing because it's his. Like, yeah, you can. You are full of crap, sir. Danielle comes out of her safety room to talk to this big-ass man-child that she married, and she's telling us how she would do anything to make this work, but this last day has been a nightmare. She says his marriage requires mutual effort and honesty. And they don't have honesty at the moment. She tells him it's important for her to have a partner with honesty and values. He took her card multiple times. He took her money and didn't say anything. And then when she asked, he lied about it and said, no, that's her problem. Because trust is the most important thing to her in a relationship. Now she doesn't trust him and he thinks he has an American wife, so she'll pay for everything. And she doesn't want that. She wants an equal partner. She wants a king. He's like, you want to humiliate me over 4,000 pesos. And she's like, no, because you lied. She can look it up. It's more than that. He tells her to look it up then. She grabs her phone. She was ready. She says, this week, 2,000. Friday, you took money twice. All these other charges in a week. One for 3,000 pesos. One for 5,000. And she's like, this is a nightmare. He's like, you're going to blame me for all your charges. Like, I doubt Danielle is hitting up the ATM. She very much seems like a card lady. Or she's at the pool or the beach. She's getting upset reading off all the dates he took money, and it's a lot of days. And I wonder why it took her that long to notice. And she's like, you think I went to the bank every day? She says she made 4 withdrawals. It was 160. It has nothing to do with the money that she would give it. Like, she would give him money if he needed it. But he's lying. He said he did it when she left to the retreat because he didn't have food. But she's not buying that because they have a freezer full of meat, probably from his butcher shop, and 20 pounds of rice on deck at all times. And he's a thief because he took 4,000 pesos from his wife. And if he asked, if he asked her, she wouldn't give it to him. And this is why he needs a job and money. He wouldn't need to ask someone else. He tells her she's selfish. She says she's invested all the money in this relationship. Everything has come from her. And she's disgusted saying that. He says she doesn't provide for him. He buys his own food. He pays rent and electricity too. So she can't say she does everything for him. She tells him that she needs half the money for everything on the first. If he doesn't want to pay that, he can go back to his mom's. He's not about to go back to his mom's empty-handed apparently. If she wants him to leave, he wants his money back that he spent on the apartment. That's not how it works. You live there at that time. You live there those months. She says that makes no sense to her. He lost his damn mind. Basically, he says he isn't going to pay anything to live there. And, that's not going to work for Danielle. She says she knows he hasn't paid for a quarter of the things that she has. He doesn't want to pay for anything. And when she asks, he gets angry. It was different when he was at his mom's house and he was broke. But now he has the resources and he needs to use them. So then she tells him he needs to find a codependent American woman. She can refer him out and find him one. She's good with the low blows. I have to give her that. He says he was good at home. He didn't have debt. So she tells him to go. But he wants his money first, which is ridiculous. Like, he already owes her for all these thousands of pesos he stole multiple times. He probably owes her a lot for bills. Plus, he had lived there, so he's not entitled to nothing. At least in my opinion. Yeah, he wants her to leave. He'll pay her in peace. That's just stupid. She tells him he's, a piece of crap. And for once, Danielle's right. I do feel like he's just mad at her and he's getting revenge because she didn't bring him to America. Everyone knew he wanted to do that. If he was to come to America, he wanted to work, but not to help Danielle, to help his family. So she's preventing him from doing that, and I think he is doing this to her to get back at her, make her miserable as he can. He tells her to go to the bank and get money, and he'll leave her a peaceful life. So she tells him to get out of her house. She says she never thought he would be someone who didn't contribute equally. She thought that he didn't contribute because he couldn't, but now that he can, he still isn't. And he's stealing from her after taking care of him all this time. And she's insulted and embarrassed, and this means he really is just with her for money. Well, they say be careful what you wish for. That's what she wanted. She wanted him to be beneath her. I don't know why she's still here. I don't know why she's staying. He has been horrible to her. He has said and done some unforgivable things. But next episode, it looks like they're finally dressed up in the Christmas outfits and gonna fight. And that's what I've been waiting for. I'm so excited. Yay. Alright guys, let's talk about Shekinah and Sarper. By the looks of the preview, I don't want to see her talk about this, but here we go. She tells us her sister left today to go home, and she thought last night went well, but her sister didn't and doesn't have a better opinion of him today. They show them talking. Sister says that he was better than the night before, but she just thinks he's trying to appease the situation. Shekinah tells her she's negative. She's like, I wouldn't feel like this if I saw a level of love and respect. And she didn't see that. And then she's like, you chose not to see it. Like, no, she didn't. No one did. The best thing he did was take a picture of them and not post it. And now she knows her sister will go back and tell everyone she's like in another toxic relationship. Because she is. But it's her life and her choice, and she's happy, so she wants them to be happy for her. But hey, they're finally bed shopping. Anyways, he says when her sister says her doubts didn't change, he says Shekinah was upset about that. And he wanted to make her happier and give her a present. And the best present is a bed. Thank Jesus it wasn't another knockoff Chippendales dance. She says they've been sleeping on the couch for a week and a half now, so she's relieved to get a new bed. Now, I think he's doing this for him, and he's trying to say it's for her. But either way, this encourages her, and she needed it after things with her sister. Sarper asked the results of the visit, very businesslike. She says the sister went back, and now they're not on good terms. He says things were great yesterday, what happened, and she has no idea. It's like, well, it was you. You happened. You did a terrible job impressing my sister. He says he can see she's negative after all that, and he just wants her to be happy. She's like, well, you told her last night you were going to make a post, and she took the photo, and guess what? He didn't post it. So she's disappointed. It's not a good impression on her sister. He basically says he forgot. She doesn't know why he said he would post it if he wasn't going to, and he just swears he really forgot. I believe he did. He's a space case. Then he tells her she didn't mention it. She wasn't like, hey, you forgot to post it. And she didn't because she doesn't want to keep bugging him about it. She wants him to do it because he wants to, not because he's forced. He says he wants to do it now, not because he's forced. So she pulls out his phone to post it. He pulls out his phone to post it in front of her eyes. And typical for these two, she's finally in a bed store, and we're talking about a post. She wanted a bed. He says before she came to Turkey, he tried to fight buying a bed and posting things, but he gave up. And then he's all dramatic about it. Our first post, finally, it's here. As if they've been waiting for a letter. Like, he could have done it a week ago. And she smiles. She's so happy. She says this shows he's a man of his word, doing what he promised. And that's another check mark for her. So they decide on a bed. Again, she's happy to not be on the couch. Then he's like, yeah, but even on the couch, how many times did you cross the finish line? And she seems a little mortified. And she's like, babe, please, no, stop. And he's like, I stopped counting after 6 times. And she didn't count. And she just says they have the best sex life. And he tells her it wasn't her record because the most he's counted was 12 times. And I'm like, yikes, who cares? Like, I need a shower after this, after watching this. Ugh. And he says he always counts. And it's, I guess it's like reps when he's working out. He's like, 1, 2. Then he calls her a totally orgasmic B word. So that must be their new pet name when he calls her a bitch or whatever, because he says it a whole lot. Anyway, next episode, because that's enough of that, they decide to go wholesome, and they're at a cute little farm type thing. There's sheep, and they go in there, and there's a little fireplace, and Sarper tells us they're meeting his cousins and aunt today, because today is a holiday called Heiderella's. I don't know. They celebrate this holiday to welcome spring. They write wishes on papers and bury them under trees, and it sounds like spell work to me. I've done similar things. I write wishes on bay leaves, and I burn them, so that's fun. He says he's an only child, so his cousins and him grew up like brother and sister, and introducing Shekinah is a big deal for him. It's like, we know everything he does is a big deal for him. His family arrives, and they're all smiles and hugs, and they have a seat. Sarper tells us his cousin's name is also Sarper, but his cousin is the first one. And the little girl just seems to love him, and he's very loving to her, and it's so cute. And they tell Shekinah that she's curious about her because she loves her uncle so much. And they ask her about her family, and she mentions she has a daughter in boarding school. So she's going to go back every 5 weeks to be with her. Then the cousin's like, oh, so are you done being a mother? And she's like, no, never. And she's like, well, I didn't mean with your child, like, a new adventure if she plans to have a new kid, a.k.a. have a baby Sarp running around here. But Shekinah says she's not interested in that and starting over, but they just would love to see him be a dad. Sarper number 2 or 1 or whoever says, well, what about him? What does he want? Is he happy without a child? Sarper doesn't have an answer. He wants to change the subject. He tells us he was planning to have this conversation with Shekinah, but at the right moment. He wasn't expecting his cousins to ask like these kind of questions. He says he does want a child, and he would like to talk to her about it because she needs to know how he feels. He's like, okay, now we need to write our wishes. They do it together for the good energy. Shekinah's trying to peek at Sarper's. I'm like, doesn't she know the wish rules? But he drew some stick figures, and the cousin says he has to write the names. He says he doesn't know the name. That's the problem. Shekinah tells us he has some secret, and this talk about kids has probably brought it up. So I'm guessing he does have a kid. He doesn't know anything out there besides that he exists. And yep, that's it. Then he tells his cousins he has a son. She's shocked. He's never met or seen this son before. Why is anybody shocked when he slept with 2,500 women or whatever? I'm surprised there's not 7 or 8. This guy should do Ancestry.com. They'll blow up your spot. For real. I think... Side note, my mom has found out throughout the last few years that she has like over 4 or 5 siblings from my grandpa and 1 from my grandma, and they found out through like Ancestry.com. And most of these kids were adopted out, looking for their parents, and they all got like partial hits on different family members of mine, and found out their dad was my grandpa. So Ancestry.com helps. If you don't know, it tells you like half matches, partial matches, possible family, things like that. So if you ever need to know things, it's helpful. Where am I? His secret kid. He's 24 or 25 now. Then he tells us in 1998 he spent a week of vacation with a Russian lady. They, had lots of fun time. She wanted to have a child. He didn't know that. And honestly, I don't know how he knows that that was her intention. If he, you'll hear the rest here. He had only given her an email, and after 3 months, she said she was pregnant and that he had no obligation. He was scared. He deleted his email. He forgot it. He says he was scared that she would drop a child in his lap at 18. So that was difficult, and he tried to forget it. But after 5 years, he was regretful. He looked for her. He couldn't find her. He only knew her first name. So his wish is to find his son and meet him. And that is why I don't think he knew that she intended to have a child. Shekinah says she hopes he can connect with him. They all hope he gets his wish. And the day I watched this, I was super emotional. So I was tearing up for him. Also, with everything I just said, when I was a kid, I knew who my dad was, but I knew nothing about him. Like my birth dad, my biological dad. I'm going to probably speak about my other dad in a different segment here, because I do have two and it gets confusing. But my biological dad, I knew nothing about. I didn't know his ethnicity, family history, any of that. So I thought about doing this ancestry thing just for that purpose. But thinking about this and thinking about his son, who never met his dad, didn't know his dad, and as far as he knows, she told his dad about him and he ran away, which is what happened. And I know the pain that comes with feeling like you are unwanted or not good enough by your parent. So it got me here. I was tearing up. I think the second episode of The Other Way, I'm pretty sure I cried 3 times. My emotions were very out of whack for a few days, and I actually have an appointment next week to go and talk about them, because something ain't right when you cry for 3 days straight. I mean, obviously I'm a woman. It's that time of the month and things, so I'm worried it's something with that. Anyways, I teared up about this. He tells us having a baby is the purpose of life because you want your blood to continue. He's had a child he never met, and he didn't get that feeling, but he wants a baby to raise. He knows Shekinah doesn't want one, but he hopes she can be persuaded. Oh, man. So later we see them. She's happy, telling him his life is getting an upgrade because he got a new bed. Yay! They can finally sleep in bed together. She's like, we've had to do everything on the couch, and this is going to help our sex life, and we can have fun in the bedroom now. She tells him to delete all his memories from his old bed, and he's like, deleted. As if that ever worked. Deleted. He asks what she thought about his cousin. She thinks they're sweet and have good energy. He tells her she was reluctant about kids, so he's scratching his brain. He said he was waiting to talk about this, but he's like, is it impossible for you to have another child? She's like, well, not physically. And he says, mentally. She doesn't want to start over and raise a child. She already did that practically alone in her 20s and 30s. She's 40 now. She feels like she has time to give to him. And kids just take a lot of work. He's like, oh my gosh, you're so against everything. She says it's not fair to say she's against everything. And she's like, you're really upset. He is. He says all her genetics, money, everything she has will transfer to a baby. And it goes on like this. And that his family name is going to end with him. And it's different for her because she already had a kid. And she might have grandkids and things. But if he has them, he won't see them. if he can't find his son. He says family is a big deal in his culture, and he's an only child, so it falls on him. He didn't think he could give his parents that, but now he has the possibility. He says he never found the right girl to have a baby with. And she's like, let me remind you, we covered this on our first date. And she said she didn't want kids, and he said me either. And she's like, he says, like, look, all I was trying to do was have a one-night stand that night. Like, she's like, so you weren't being honest? And he's like, yeah, I was being honest. He said he didn't want to get married or have kids, but now he's found the one girl he can take care of and give a life to. She's like, oh, so you started getting feelings for me and wanted things you've never wanted before. Like, duh. She can't picture herself having another child. She finally has him. She wants to enjoy that. Besides, she's 41. He's like, you're 41, so how many years do you have left to give birth? She doesn't want to give birth again. He says if you love someone, you want a kid from them. And this is the problem with him being so immature and like such a late bloomer. If he wants kids, he should be with someone who's like 30, 27, I don't know. You know, he says it's simple. They need a plan for the future. He's like, look at me. I bought a bed. I'm sharing space with a woman. If someone told me that 5 months ago, he would laugh at them. So she shouldn't close all doors. She tells us she was upfront about not wanting kids, and she's frustrated. He's switching on her, and he needs to figure that out because if he wants, figure out if he wants her or a child, because he can't have both. And, that's fair. I don't know many people who at 41, really want to have a child, but it happens. So maybe we'll get an episode of them going to the fertility clinic. All right, guys, thanks for sticking out with me. If you haven't, make sure you like and subscribe and comment and all those fun things. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and talk about Wally. Wayne and Holly. I almost forgot about these two. She's seeing Wayne off to work. She says that she's been living there for 3 months, and her mom went home last week. He's been working a lot just so they can survive because they're in a bad way financially. So she's alone a lot, and it's just heartbreaking that her mom is gone. Luckily, she can still video call her, so she does. She says hi to the dog. She misses running with them. She says things with her and Wayne are good. It's just hard, though, because he works a lot, and she's alone. She says the only issue they have is her having a hard time to adapting to living there. She's not used to being alone, so it's hard. I don't know how many times she has to say that, but I can relate. I used to live with, it was my mom, my 3 kids, my kid's dad, my sister, my brother, and his girlfriend in a house. But for most of my life, when I was 18, I moved out right away. And then when I was 24 and I had my oldest son, I moved back in with my mom because I was on bed rest and all this stuff. So I've just always lived with a lot of people. Even when I moved out, I had roommates. I had a boyfriend, whatever it was. And then after I had the twins, and it was during 2020, which is a great time, by the way, for this to happen. I was living on my own with my kid's dad, and he took off. He literally came home from work the day they announced they were closing down restaurants. He worked at a restaurant at the time. He came home and he went for a walk because he told me that his dad was in the hospital for a week. He had told me this. And he needed to go for a walk to think about it. And he just never came home until the next day when he told me he was moving out. And that was the second time he did that. He did that before when my son was 2. But from that moment, that was the first time I ever lived alone. My entire life, I always lived with so many people. And then it was during 2020, so nobody could visit me. It was just me and my kids for a very long time. And then I moved to a new house, and I went through a period where it was like terrifying because it was like, man, I'm the only adult here. I'm the only one in charge. Like, if anything happens, it's on me. And I'm lonely, and there's not anyone else around. And it's really hard and isolating, so I could see why she's having a problem. I really went in on a tangent there. I'm sorry about all that. But yeah, that's just what happened to me. It was a very dark loneliness feeling. And I had to drag myself out of it. And it's hard, even when you feel like this and somebody's with you, you still feel alone. So I think maybe, here I go again with the therapy, but like maybe if you're moving to a whole different country alone with just your spouse, like you could do some kind of like counseling to adjust to that, especially her. Like, she seems to need to be coddled. Anyway, Holly's been struggling with making this her home. She already feels homesick. Back in America, she had work friends. She would go shopping and do social stuff and all of those things. Now she can't go anywhere, and even if she could, she doesn't have friends. She can't make work friends because she can't work. And she knew it would be hard, but sometimes it's hard to imagine what it'll actually be like. And Wayne's sister lives far away, so it's isolating. Mom says it isn't easy being away from her daughter, who she would see every day, and she just didn't feel safe in South Africa. She's scared. She worries about her over there. Holly says it's harder than she thought. She doesn't know that it'll ever feel like home, but she fell in love with Wayne, and she feels a lot of pressure because she agreed to this life. She's supposed to make it work, and she doesn't know if she can. That's all we get from them. I don't even know why they're still showing us these people, because they get like a 5-minute segment every couple episodes. But they are in 2 episodes in a row now, so hey. It's been a couple weeks now since her mom left. This is the next episode. She's very lonely. She gets a package, and it's a mermaid tail. She's like, babe, come quick. I want to show you something by the pool. She loves mermaids. She always wanted to be one. And I'm like, hey, me too. Ariel's my favorite. She hopes it cheers... Oh, I said I hope this cheers me up. I'm still sad after Brandon and his mom talking. Huh. We'll get there, guys. Wayne makes his way out. She's flapping her tail around outside the pool. She accidentally kicks him in the face. She's like, oh, what do you think? He's like, well, the dog likes it. AKA, that's ridiculous. She says she has nothing to do here, but now she has a tail to swim in. He says that she hasn't swam one time since, she got here, and now she wants to play Little Mermaid. And I'm like, look, she's trying to get all the princesses she can in on this season. First it was Rapunzel. Wish Rapunzel at that. Now it's Wish Ariel. We got this. Nothing wrong with that. She says that it's been hard there, and it'll give her something to do that she loves. He's like, has it been hard, though? She says it has. He says now that her mom is gone, maybe she'll feel better about his country because Mama put ideas into her head while she was there. She says it's not about her mom, it's about her. She hasn't made friends. And he doesn't realize how opposite this is from her life before. And he tells her she isn't trying enough. I'm like, well, she did buy a mermaid tail. She tells him she put in more effort into it than he has. He's like, you're wearing a mermaid tail. How is that trying? I just hate it when people poo-poo on other people's happiness. It is silly, yes, but does it hurt anyone? No. She says she's wearing it to cheer herself up. He tells her to make new friends. She's like, how am I supposed to do that? Well, we've recently learned that there's BFF Bumble. She could try that. Maybe. Go to church. Join a book club. Google things. I don't know. He said he picked some Wayne-approved friends for her, and she didn't spend time with them. She says, you need to have things in common with friends. He says she wouldn't know if she did because she hasn't spent time with them. And she's complaining about everything and hasn't given it a shot. She tells him she's trying to tell him she isn't doing well or adapting well. and she's depressed, and she doesn't know how much she can take. She tells us this was her decision, so she feels like it's on her to make it work, and she doesn't know if she can. And if she can't live there, she doesn't know what that means for their future. He asked her to keep trying because she chose this, and they need to make it work. Later, we see them. Holly's painting. She's lived there 4 months now, and she paints to keep busy. She says she's taken his advice to give it time, and she's trying, but she doesn't know what to do. He's her support system, and she's less happy and more stressed because he works 12 hours a day, and she's alone and not getting support. So now she's just ready to go to the U.S., and the lights go out. Before we get into the rest of this, I just want to point out, her mom's probably been gone a month, so 3 of the 4 months she had her mom there. So she's really given it 1 month for her to adjust and get used to things. I don't think that's really putting in effort to do that. But the lights go out. She says the load shedding has gotten worse. They're lucky to get 5 hours a day when it happens. And that's when the robbers come out, and she's just waiting there to be victimized. It's like the Purge Africa, I guess. So she has many reasons not to live there, and the power is one of the main ones. And if she doesn't have to live like this, why would she? Wayne gets home to a romantic candlelit power outage. Before they can even say hi, she's like, I can't take this anymore. I want to leave and go to America. He's like, before we fight, let me go turn on the backup power. She apparently didn't know she could do that. But he says he showed her, and I believe he showed her at least 5 times, because she just seems like a space cadet. He's upset, and I would be too if I walked in the door and she was like freaking out a little. She wants him to understand how hard this is for her. She's sitting in the dark. He's gone all day. And he's like, you're sitting in the dark. Okay. At least you're in a warm house. I'm out in the cold working to provide for you. And does she think he wants to come home to hear his wife moaning about the power? Honeymoon's over, guys. Actually, they didn't even get one. She says she wants to go to America and he can come with. And she's not trying to live like this. He says it sounded like she was going alone. And it's like, yeah, I kind of did. She says she can't talk to him. She can't express how she feels because then she's complaining. Like, it's simple. They can leave. They don't have to stay. He's like, how is this simple? My whole life is here. Like, well, damn, her whole life was in America. But he has his dad and his business there. She's like, well, you have a wife now, so it's different. She tells us she doesn't want to live there. She doesn't like it, but she loves him a lot. He's like, if I go there, I can't work. And if we go there, she would have to take care of him. And in his culture, that's just no bueno. She doesn't want to support him either. Like, she wouldn't even be attracted to him. But he wouldn't ever be able to work, so he could eventually work. He asks her to give it more time to adapt. She says no, it's crushing her spirit, and she's becoming nothing there. And she has to leave, and she wants him to go to America. He says the plan was to live there no matter what, and he feels like he can't force her to stay. And her wanting to leave will create havoc. And he doesn't think he can go to America. But she knew that. He said that about his business and his dad. He said that before. I think if they do go to America, they might be on Happily Ever After. I'm not sure when that's coming back, but I have a feeling it's going to be next. I can just feel it. My psychic energy. Hopefully. I mean, if you guys know. I feel like that's just what's going to be next. Happily Ever After. Maybe not. Let me know what you guys think. If you know, let me know. That'd be cool. Alright, guys. Get your tissues just in case. Because it's Kenny and Armando time. Today they're meeting with Gemma, their potential surrogate. Kenny said they did meet her the day before, but it was like a job interview and it just seemed tense. So they wanted to talk to her more, like in a more relaxed setting. They like her. They like that she's had children, so she knows what giving birth is like. She's from Mexico, and Kenny's happy she speaks English as well. But they have concerns. She's never done this before. and surrogacy isn't common in Mexico. And they need to know that she understands everything that comes along with the decision. Armando says it's been a long journey and he wants to get her through her thoughts on the aspect of family because he believes in Mexico women are judged for doing surrogacy. She says, yeah, women are judged all the time, and she knows some people won't think it's good that she's doing this, but the ones who matter are okay with it. Everyone else can kick rocks. Armando says his family will comment about how they don't know how a woman can do this. And she says when she talks to her sister and she says she's nuts, how can she give up a baby without feeling anything? And she says she will feel something, but she knows in her head it's not hers and it's a gift that she's giving them to have their own family. And she says that's how she's going to separate the bond she knows she's going to make. But she knows it'll be hard because it's a baby and it's not easy, but it's out of love. She's crying. She says it's what she wants to do. And she says she knows she's a loving mother. And when she was pregnant, she put music on her belly and read them books. So she's going to do the same with this baby. So he knows it'll be made with love. Now they're all crying. When I was pregnant, I would sing to the babies. With Oliver, I sang Once Upon a Dream. And A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes from Cinderella. Once Upon a Dream is from Sleeping Beauty. And with the twins, I sang Three Little Birds by Bob Marley. It's like, don't worry about a thing. It's every little thing. It's gonna be alright. That one, because I was terrified that I was having twins with the man I was having twins with. So I would sing that to them. And then when they were in the NICU, we would sing You'll Be in My Heart from Tarzan, because it says, for one so small, you seem so strong. And they were very tiny. So I think that's good that she's talking about this. So they're crying. The tissues came in handy. Armando says he's emotional because Hannah lost her mother, and it feels good that she would give the baby love and do things a mother does. And she says that she's going to do things with her that Hannah's mom did. And Armando feels like if they pick her, she'll be part of their family after the child's born. Armando says they want to care for her and love her. You know, she isn't just an oven. And she feels love for them in this moment, and they feel it too. Kenny says he loves emotional people, and he's feeling like she knows it'll be hard, but she wants to do good by them. Armando thinks she has her heart in the right place, and he feels her love. Then, after all that big emotion fest and everything, and they're like, oh, I feel love for you in this moment, and everything else, they're like, thank you for this. We'll get back to you when we decide if you have the job. Like, dang. Like, after all that, you don't know? You haven't decided? That is cold-blooded. I hope they pick her. I hope we get to see the journey. I think that'll be great. Alright, last up, let's talk about Brandon and Mary. They are riding back to Mary's. Brandon's mom just arrived. They managed to fit all three of them and her luggage on that little buggy. So that's impressive. Mary feels awkward. She doesn't know what to say. She feels like she isn't willing to talk to her, and she's offended that her mom judged the poverty. Now she's worried about their house. Like, I'm sorry, but anybody coming from like a well-off country, a well-developed country, and then going to other places like this is going to be a little taken aback by it. That's just how it is. She wasn't talking badly. His mom meets the brother and the grandma, and she shakes their hands and smiles, so she's being respectful. Unlike her son, who does the opposite of what they ask, and then asks permission when it's too late. So Mary's worried. She's feeling pressure because she's staying with them, and she's worried that she'll judge them. Brandon's giving them a tour. He shows her the bench and the kitchen. They have a fridge and a freezer, so that's a plus. Then he goes through and shows her all the appliances because he thinks he's on MTV Cribs. Mama is pleasantly surprised, and it's better than she expected because she was thinking a shack by the river. But it's a house, so she's relieved. He's telling her she's sleeping in their room because she doesn't like bugs and they get less bugs in there. He says they have big old spiders in there, and his poor mama is terrified of anything with legs that crawls on walls and can hide, especially spiders. But she has to know living there is different. You have to just be one with the bugs. So she has Brandon look around for critters. He's like, I can, but there probably isn't. Then she looks, she finds a spider skin. She's freaked out. He's teasing her. She didn't know spiders shed skins, and I mean, I really didn't either. She just isn't excited about all the creepy crawlies. Then there's a big old spider, and he kills it, and he leaves his mom in there to panic alone. He tells Mary he thought when she saw the other home, she might have thought they had the same type of house. Well, and she's like, yeah, well, there isn't anything wrong with the other homes. He knows that, but he told her that his mom has high standards. She's like, yeah, that's why I'm scared to talk to her. And she isn't talking to Mary at all. He tells Mary she can put effort into it. And she says she doesn't know her that much. And when he said for them to hug, she didn't do it. She says she tried to hug her, and Brandon, he didn't see that. I didn't see that. Nobody saw that. They both stood there. He says he isn't trying to defend her. And she's like, you're already defending her. And she wants him on her side because he promised. He tells her like he is on her side. And I'm like, dang, his mom didn't even do anything. He says that he'll get his mom to talk to her and they can have a real conversation. His mom starts yelling for him, so that can only mean one thing, baby lizard. But he convinces her it'll go back outside. He says she hopes that her and Mary can get along because if something bad happens, he's in the middle. He says if he can get them to a mutual understanding before they get into a fight or a fight at the wedding, it will ruin everything if he can't do that. And he just wants it to go well. So, next episode. They're cooking some frog, it looks like. Brandon tells us his mom arrived yesterday, and it started off rocky. His mom comes out with some mac and cheese and chili, and Brandon is happy. It's like she brought him mac and cheese and chili from America. Mary doesn't even look at her. He says Mary thinks he doesn't have her back, but he's just trying to prevent a fight. So he's like trying to break the ice, and he's going to do the frog prank on his mom. She's like, I'm having a hard time that they're like baby chickens because they're babies. He's like, well, you're going to be happy that they aren't chickens, it's frog. And she's like, that makes me feel better, actually. She's so relieved. She doesn't care as much about frogs as baby chickens. Mary says that she was nervous she would freak out and blame her, but she didn't. Mary asks her if it's good, and she says it tastes like chicken. And Mary says when she tries to talk to her, she only talks to Brandon, so she can tell she's being judged. I just want to say that maybe Brandon should just let them fight, because that's how you resolve issues, not by avoiding them. So later that night, Brandon takes his mom out to the chicken body part on a stick emporium. They have chicken heart, liver, and heads on a stick. He says that she liked frogs, so he wanted to take her out for the Filipino street food, and she decides on chicken liver. And she still can't believe her son lives here. She tries the liver, she likes it. She tells him when he was little, he never would have imagined, where he would be. He's like, yeah, you and me both. She's like, it just shows you never know where your life will end up. She's like, yeah, like I never thought I would be an addict. Like, way to dampen the mood, dang. He's like, yeah, I didn't think that either. I couldn't believe it. He says when he was 14, his siblings were 3 and 5. His mom would disappear for long periods of time and leave him with the kids. So eventually he got taken away. He was in denial that she was a drug addict, and it messed with him mentally and destroyed their lives. Sorry, this is hard for me. So I wrote in here, take a breath, Leslie. This sounds like my dad. When I say my dad raised me since I was 2. I mentioned earlier, like, I had a bio dad, but my brother and my sister's dad raised me. And he was an addict, but he always raised me like I was his kid. He had, like, crazy mood swings, things like that. And I'm 4 years older than my sister and 5 or 6, depending on the year, older than my little brother. And my dad and my mom didn't stay together for very long, but he always, like, kept me as his kid, And my mom worked, like, 2 to 3 jobs to support us, and we would spend weekends with my dad, or there were times he lived with us and we stayed with him all day. And what that entailed was him sleeping all day in, like, a pitch black room, and me cooking, cleaning, basically being a mother to my brother and sister. I did this for my entire life, from the time I was, like, 6, And my dad, he'll tell these stories about, like, I know how to cook. It's called fideo. It's like a Mexican, not rice. It's like a noodle, tomato noodle dish. It's called fideo. He's like, oh man, you know how to cook that. I remember when you were like 8 and you made me some. Because when I was that old, he had me cooking. The first time that I learned to make pork chops was because he snapped at me that I didn't know how. He had me hysterically crying as I learned. And I never forgot how to cook pork chops because we were starving. He had slept for 2 days. And I woke him up to tell him we were hungry. And he's like, we have food in this house. There's pork chops. It's like, I don't know how to cook them. And that was the day I learned to make pork chops, and it was real sad. But he talks about, like, this good food I make and how, like, bomb it was and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but I was a child. I shouldn't have, like, been doing that, like, making dinner for everyone. And it was my responsibility to make sure my siblings showered. And the thing was, my mom worked a lot, and my dad instilled this fear in us of, like, don't tell your mom this, don't tell your mom, you'll get in trouble. So we were terrified to tell my mom anything. There was another story where my dad had, like, these blackout curtains on his windows because he would work, like, overnight jobs, and then he would sleep all day, or, it depended. But anyway, he would pass out for days at a time, and I was the only supervision when I was 11. So I really relate to Brandon, except my siblings weren't, like, we were pretty close in age. But my dad told me this story, and he tells me these stories with such nostalgia. And he's like, I remember this time I was telling you guys to go outside and play because you were driving me crazy. And I kept telling him, no, it's snowing. And it was like May or June, I don't know. And he didn't believe me, and he's like, whatever. He forced us to go outside. And he said later, eventually, he finally looked outside, like, what is she talking about, snowing? And me and my siblings were outside with no coats, no nothing, stuck outside in the snow. And he thought it was, like, funny to tell me the story of, like, child neglect. And he said, get in the house, it's snowing, don't tell your mom. And he's laughing, telling me the story. Like, this was recent. And I'm like, all I hear is child neglect and, like, don't tell your mom. And those are very triggering things for me. I don't talk to him often. My siblings won't talk to him. I'm the only one who does because we have this special bond. He didn't know his dad. He didn't know anything about his dad. Same with me. I just spoke about that. And he chose to be my dad. So I always felt like I had to be grateful. And I had to, like at least I have something. I could have nothing. Like, even if it's an addict for a father, it's hard. It's a lot to work through. So when I was watching this, I related so much because my dad made me be the parent to my siblings because of his addiction. Yeah, like I said, this was an emotional episode for me. Thank you guys for listening to all that. Don't worry, I'm doing pretty well now. And it taught me a lot of, like, what not to do to my kids. I try to be the adult in their life that I wish that I had. So, or in any kid's life, really. I'm a very safe place. So anyway, Brandon tells his mom he's happy that she started recovery. She's 18 months clean and sober, so he's proud of her. And she says, you don't treat addiction by not using, you treat it by creating a life that makes it easier not to. And the only thing that would make it more complete is like rebuilding their relationship. And he says, to do that, he needs to connect and bond with Mary. And if they're not all okay, like she's going to miss things in his child's life, he doesn't want that. He says Mary didn't have a mom or a person to give her guidance, and so she should have her back. The mom understands, so she's going to try to build a healthy relationship with her. They both appreciate each other, and she appreciates him letting her try to be his mom when he's going to be a dad. Like, this one just, like, hits me too much. He tells her, even dads need their moms. And I know how he's feeling. Like I said, with my dad, he would go to prison, he would go to jail, to rehab, to adult boot camp. And while he would be in these places, he would like write us letters and call us constantly and just make endless promises about, I'm going to get better, I'm going to do better. I just want to be your dad. He does that to me now. I just want to be a grandpa. I only hear from him when he's sober or when he's super high. He'll like constantly call, and I'm the only kid who will talk to him. And then when he's sober, he's making all these promises and he's going to be great. And I'm not saying she's doing this, but if he was 14 and she's been 18 months sober, I'm sure he's had conversations like this before. And it's understandable why he's leery and why he would rather pick Mary's side than listen to his mom. The mom thinks this could be a fresh start for her and Brandon. And as for Mary and the toxicity and jealousy, she can let it go as long as she sees effort for improvement. If she keeps behaving how they have in the past, then that's going to be a problem. And I think like if Brandon's mom really let Mary in and opened up to her, Mary would react well. I think she would clench on to her, and like she wants a mom. She wants that figure. She wants that acceptance and guidance. And to feel like she has a mom, and this is going to be her mother-in-law. So I think it would work out. Again with this couple triggering me. So later we see them. They say Mary's 24 weeks pregnant, and they got her first sonogram since she's pregnant. And I'm like, you guys, my babies were 24 weeks and 5 days. And I remember like 5 years ago this weekend, I did the gender reveal for the twins. And that was, let's say, like November 11th. 1 month later, I had them. So I was just like, man, I can't imagine, like, I was only that far along, finding out their gender, doing this. And right after that, they were born. And it's just crazy to think that they survived, and I'm just so grateful. But they must do things different there, or they couldn't afford the sonogram yet, because I think it was like 20 weeks or so when I found out the gender of the twins. And I just can't believe my little miracle survived. Anyways, they got the sonogram. They got the gender in an envelope. They're going to have his mom reveal it so they can include her. And they order 2 pieces of pie. They decide since Mary wants a boy, he's going to hope for a girl. If it's a boy, he gets a pie. If it's a girl, he pies her. Either way, they're getting a pie in the face. Mama asks, how hearing the baby's heartbeat was, and he says he can't stop thinking about it, and it made it real. So before they do the gender reveal, the mom has some things to bring up. He started a family across the world, and she's not going to be a part of that, and that's her fault. But Mary comes from what she believes is a dysfunctional environment, and so does Brandon. And she knows they love each other, but that isn't enough, because they haven't dealt with all the things that they grew up learning, and it becomes a pattern. Brandon agrees and says they're working on it. Because when he was in America, they would fight every day, but now they're slowly getting better at it. Now he's screaming at her over there. Mary says they're not trying to be better. They are trying to be better as a couple. And she's trying to do better too. Because even now she's still overthinking and she can't handle it. Because she was abandoned and she's scared of that. Mama's like, that's cute, but you both need therapy. She tells them Mary has abandonment issues and overthinking. And her boy Brandon has anger issues and codependency. And when they work on those things separately, they'll work together better. Brandon says he's willing to do that. And if Mary is, then that would mean a lot to him. She's willing to, and guess what? She's thankful his mom gave them advice. It helps her a lot, especially since it's from Brandon's mom. No one's done that for her before. Like, what did I say? Mama says this is the best communication they've had since she's been there, but she really hopes they do therapy because she's worried about her grandbaby. Everyone is happy, and now it's gender reveal time. And it's a girl. Mary gets a pie in the face. Oh, look, I got a pink crystal. It's a girl. Mary gets a pie in the face, but she gets Brandon back. And I'm just crying too much this episode, so that's enough of that. I hope we cheer up next time. Thank you guys for listening to my rambling. Sorry if I overshared, but like I said, a lot of topics here really hit me. Like, even just like Mary being pregnant, I didn't expect to bring up anything. But then she said 24 weeks, and then I was thinking, like, man, that's when I was giving birth to twins. And I was terrified, and I spent months after that just hoping they would survive. And it's something I had to work through, like seeing pregnant women, who are like 30 weeks, like, oh, I'm so ready to be done. And it's like, be grateful that you got this far, or the jealousy, or you hear other people have twins and nothing bad happens to them. Things like that. So it took me a while to work through it, but just hearing that number, the 24 weeks, I was like, wow, even this, especially after that big emotional conversation. So I appreciate you guys listening. I am definitely in a much better headspace, and I'm doing well. My kids are doing well. The boyfriend situation seems to be working itself out slowly but surely. And I just hope that I can just continue on my healing journey and become a better version of me, because that's my only goal in life, really. Thanks, you guys, for listening. I hope if any of this helps someone, awesome, let me know. If not, and you just want to comment on it, that's great too. I appreciate it. I love all your guys' kind words and encouragement. Yeah, don't forget to take deep breaths and do something fun and nice for yourself, like go to the crystal shop. And I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you later. Bye.